Hello, I'm Zach and I'm making my first ever tutorial. I'm doing a tile pattern in Substance Designer. I'm gonna jump right in. I'm making a new substance, I'm calling it tile pattern, and I'm going to start with a tile generator node. So this is a default tile generator. It's using bricks as the pattern and it has the pattern specific set up pretty high, so let's lower that. It looks flat because there's no space between them. That should change if I scale it down slightly. I'm going to reduce the X amount and the Y amount to 8 respectively, and I'll offset it by 0.5 to create a nice even brick pattern. What I'm going to do next is make a Cartesian to polar node. This node takes the X and Y coordinates of this 2D texture and it maps them to degrees and radians. Next up, I'm going to make a shape node. I'm going to set it to disk under pattern and I'm going to make a blend node here. I'm going to plug this into the alpha and I'm going to plug this into the foreground. So now I have this texture. Next up, I'm going to make a transformation 2D node, plug the shape into there as well, and I'm going to offset it along the x-axis by so much. I'm also going to scale it like so, slightly, and I'm going to set the tiling mode to absolute and let it use only horizontal tiling. I'm going to make another shape node, but this one is going to be a square. Wait, no, that's not it. There you go. Make another transformation 2D node and offset it upwards slightly by 0.5, and I'm going to set the tiling mode to absolute and give it no tiling whatsoever. Now I blend these and I'll set it to max lighten. That just takes the brightest pixel between the two of them, and I'm going to blend this again using this as the alpha. Oh wait, that's what I wanted. So yeah, we have this little fish scale slice here. I'm gonna move this square down just a little bit to get rid of that intrudy, like tiny sliver at the top. Gonna make some space, and basically I'm going to duplicate this to form a tiling pattern. I'll make a transformation 2D node, kind of move it to the top, I guess, and create a new blend node. Wait, that wasn't supposed to happen. Plug this back into here. So I got this, and I'm gonna basically add them both together using max lighten. And so now I have them on the same texture, and I'm gonna make another transformation 2D node, offset it along the x-axis so I have this, and I'm gonna repeat that process. So I'm gonna make a blend node, plug these two in, and max lighten. Okay, so clearly that's not what we want. I'll move these up along the x-axis by y-axis by 0.25. That looks cool. That's what we want. So clearly this doesn't fit together so well, so I'm gonna fix that by making another transformation 2D, and what do I want to do here? I'll move this up and I'll scale it. What does that give me? So this is what my pattern looks like right now. I'm not sure I like it, so I'm going back to the original circles that define the curvature of this fish scale. I'm going to double click this so I'm previewing it, but I'm going to select the circle transformation 2D node so I can adjust it, and I'm just going to do this to see how I feel. I can also do, oh no, that's not what I want. Interesting. I'm going to select this transformation 2D node now and scale my pattern in sideways. So basically what I can do is I can fiddle with it until it fits in about just right. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be a stylized texture in the end. You see how this is clipping in? I can fix that by moving this transformation node. So I'm just gonna cut down the top of it until about there. That looks nice. That'll do for now, I guess. So there you have it. There's a nice fish scale brick pattern. There's a few pixels there still hanging around. I'm gonna get rid of those. Just move that square down a little bit more. There we go. This isn't perfect, but using the mix of transformation 2D nodes and generally just scaling the texture, you should be able to get what you want. Something nice. And so we have the base of our brick pattern. The next part is really what makes the texture. I'm going to do a flood fill node. This should give you something really peculiar looking. This is a utility node. It does not output anything you'd use in the texture itself, but it lets you do some interesting things. So first off, before you use a flood fill node, you need to know that your texture needs to have a bunch of white shapes on a black background. Flood fill tries to identify independent shapes, and so if your shapes don't have enough space between them, if they're intersecting, that breaks flood fill. You gotta keep that in mind if your texture doesn't work. I'm gonna go and do flood fill to random gradient. So this populates a bunch of gradients in each shape I have here. Gonna crank up the angle variation a little. And the interesting thing now is I can make a bunch of these. I will make a bunch of these. I'm gonna tell you why once I'm done. So I got angle at 0 degrees on this, so I'm gonna set it to 90 degrees here. Copy that. Make sure to double click it and select it. Rotate it another 90 degrees. Copy it again. Select it, and we have the 4 cardinal directions. Now what I'm going to do is make a blend node, plug the top 2 into each other, into the blend node, and set it to min darken, and it gives you this sort of plane effect. Min darken takes the darkest pixel on each point in the texture, so you kind of get this effect of it going up and then going down. But if I make another blend node, plug this into it, set that to min darken as well, and do it a third time, I get this effect. Every shape in my flood fill has a 4-pointed kind of pyramidal thing going for it. What I can do now is I can run it into a levels node. This works just like in Photoshop or any other program that lets you adjust levels. And I'm going to take the top slider and I'm just going to crank it down like so. And now you see I got these really nice edge chips at the corners of my shapes. You can adjust the random seeds and the angle variation on your flood fill to gradient nodes to adjust the kind of edge chips you get. But yeah, that's really handy. What I'm going to do next is make a flood fill to random grayscale node. This looks messy because it doesn't actually have an input, so I'm going to just put a flood fill node in there. And I'm going to blend between this edge chipped texture with our original using this as a mask. That just makes it so that not every tile is chipped. Anything that's black on this doesn't go through, I think, and anything that's white does, so it makes it so that not all of our tiles are chipped. Just creates a little bit of variation. Next up, I'm going to blur this using blur HQ grayscale, because I think that's just supposed to look a little better. I'll lower the intensity on that, and the reason I'm doing that is so that these edges aren't exactly so harsh. While I'm at it, I'm also going to select this package that I'm working on. Ignore this one, that's from an older attempt. I'm going to set the size up to 2048 just so it looks better, and I'm gonna actually plug in what I've made so far to preview it. I'll plug it into albedo and height, and what I'll do here is I'll make a normal node, and I'll plug this in there and plug that into normal as well. Sorry. And now I'll set the intensity of the normal up to 3. That should be enough. So there we can start to see the effect of our texture. What I'm going to quickly do to preview the height of it is to go Materials, in 3D View, Materials, Default, Definitions, PBR, and click Tessellation. Sorry about that. Crank up the scale, crank up the tessellation, and now our material bulges. That's a nice word, bulge. So yeah, that's looking cool. That's looking cool. If I blur it, you can see how the edges kind of become more rounded. So yeah, that's nice. Obviously, this isn't the final output. We don't want our texture to look like this. We got to do some more to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create another blend node, and I'm going to take one of these and blend it with this. So I'm blending this flood filled random gradient node with a blended edge chipped texture. It looks like this. It's just on copy blending. I'm going to lower the opacity, and now you can see that our tiles kind of have a random slope to them, like a really subtle one. But yeah, you can tweak that to your liking. It just makes it everything slightly irregular. That's a good place to be. And next up, we'll add some cracks. Why am I searching for cracks? I'm gonna start with a cells 4 node. That's what this looks like, and I'm gonna scale it down. And what I'm gonna do is I'm running this to edge detect. This gives us this texture, which kind of looks like cracks, but I want them to be a bit more subtle, so I'll lower the edge width a lot, and I'll lower the edge roundness. Edge roundness basically affects the intersection points between them. We want a little bit of it just to make it look slightly organic. And you could just, I guess, I'm going to invert this, and I could subtract it. So I'm going to use a blend node. I'm going to plug this into the foreground and this into the background, and I'll set the blending mode to subtract, and there we go. There's a bunch of cracks. You can use the opacity to set the strength of it. Obviously, we don't want every tile we have to be super cracked. That wouldn't look so nice. Maybe we don't want to plug it in here. I'm not going to plug it in here. I'm going to plug it in after the blur because the cracks look kind of blurred. I will delete this node. I'll make a blend here, and there we go. Subtract. So there we have some cracks. There's some neat tricks going back to the flood fill node to get cracks to not be so consistent. What I'm going to do is run this through a directional warp, and I'm going to use this random grayscale as a intensity input. Now what that does is it shifts everything in a direction specified here with an intensity based on the grayscale value in this texture that we're feeding into intensity input. So I'm going to set the intensity really high, and what that does is it breaks the texture up based on our pattern of bricks. So now you see that our cracks are not contiguous. You can't trace one crack. Well, in some places you can, but you see how it works. They are kind of broken up, and I guess I don't want cracks everywhere, so I'm gonna make another blend node, and I'm gonna plug this into the alpha of it, and you can see how some cracks are being masked out because bits that are black on this won't let any cracks through. I think that's how it works. You can make that more severe using a levels node and turning up the black part of it. Or wait, no, that's not how it works. Turning down the white part of it, and you can see some of our cracks vanish and we only have a few. So yeah, that's really cool. I'm going to blur these cracks separately because I don't want to blur them as much as I've blurred the edges on our chipped tiles. So I'll make another blur HQ grayscale node, and I'll just set the intensity to whatever feels right. You can do that as well. Just do it to taste, I guess. And I can set the opacity here. So I got some cracked tiles. You can decide how many cracked tiles you want using this. So yeah, just feel free to play around with it. This is what you should have by now. And the next step is color. Color is the most exciting part. I'm gonna make a gradient map, plug it in here, and you can just pick a random gradient. I normally go for like a dark blue going to a light blue. Don't know much about color really, but I guess make your dark saturated and your bright color desaturated. This is gonna be the base for our colors. I got this normal map, and to make a stylized texture, the most important thing is a curvature map. I will derive that from this normal map using a curvature smooth node. So I'm gonna just move that over there. I like to have a color section in my materials around this area. So what I will do is I will make a blend node and a uniform color, and let's just pick a random color for now for debugging purposes. Let's make a levels node here. What I'm going to do to this is move up the black, and you see how only the edges are highlighted. That's because that's what curvature maps do. They take areas where your pixels are at an angle to each other on your normal map, and they highlight that. So I'm going to use that as the alpha for our blend. Now you can see this really garish color is kind of superimposed on our texture. Let's just plug that in and have a look at it. Okay, first things first, I don't like that shininess. I'm gonna just plug a white color into our roughness. For now, we can deal with that later. And you can set this color to whatever you want. I'd probably just lower the saturation on it. This is our first pass of highlights. I'm gonna duplicate this levels node, and I like to do a second pass of highlights that's more strict but also harsher. That English is weird, you get what I'm saying. Less gradation to it, but also less actual area being highlighted. And you can use a different color for this, or you can use the same one. I'm just going to use the same one for speed. Yeah, you can see how that creates that harsh highlight. I'm also going to make another levels node using a curvature map. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to take it back to normal, but I'll invert it. The bottom two sliders, I'm going to swap places. And now when I drag this down, I get the highlights on my inset cracks. Earlier the curvature map was highlighting the smooth edges, now it's highlighting the crevices. So I'm going to make another blend node and plug that in here. What I like to do for my shadows is add a bit of purple in them. Everybody likes purple. I like purple. I don't know about you. I did it again, didn't I? I edited the original color. Let's select purple here. There we go. Lower the value on that, and I'm gonna plug that in here. And now the darker parts of the texture are kind of purple. So this is what we have so far. It's not the cleanest, honestly. Let's see. That's what this looks like. I mean, this is the start of something, I guess. I'll just take this uniform color now, deal with it now. Blend. Plug this in the foreground and plug this into the background. Oh yeah, now you see this is a color and this is a grayscale, so they can't be used together. What I'm going to do for that is plug in a grayscale conversion. I have it selected. I'm just going to hit D on my keyboard to dock it, and now I have like a faded version of my height map to use this roughness, so there's some roughness variation. And there you have it. There's a texture. You can do more. You can warp your cracks. Let's warp our cracks. I'm gonna bring in a warp node, and I'm gonna bring in Gaussian noise. Lower the scale on that. Plug it in. There you have it. Our cracks are slightly warped. You can do this to taste. You can use any of Substance's army of noise textures. It's hard to think of group words when you're recording. This is my first time ever. Damn, I pulled it off. There you have it, folks. It's a stylized tile texture. This is obviously not the best I can do, but it's a shot. It shows off the principles. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.